Yes, I'm looking at all these wonderful books.
Fab.
And I'm just sorry that Abigail won't be here tonight. I was looking forward to talking to her.
And so I'd like to thank, first of all, the Boston Public Library, who created this exhibit, and the American Library Association, who organized the exhibit, and most of all, the National Endowment for the Humanities, who pays for this exhibit. We get a grant for money so that we can bring in scholars and professors to speak on the exhibit, and they ship it to us, so we're not paying anything, which is the only way we would be able to do this. I'd also like to thank our local sponsors, the Friends of the Benicia Public Library, Benicia Main Street, Chamber of Commerce, Vallejos Visitor Center, the Benicia Historical Museum at the Camel Barbs, and you, the citizens of Benicia, who buy here and support us through Measure B. Measure B also helps with all of the supplies and paper and my job so that we can do this. So thank you very much. Benicia Public Library is one of only 20 libraries who has received this exhibit. This is the only stop in California. It will be going on to Oregon, and so we're the only two on the West Coast. So this is a real privilege for us. One thing I want you to note is the lenticulars. There's 13 lenticulars in this exhibit, and that's where there's two pictures overlaid each other, and you do what I call the John Adams sway and watch it change. So, thank you, and now I would like to present President John Adams.
Gentle ladies and good gentlemen, thank you for coming here and attending this evening. I think, however, because of my failing eyesight, I could see you better and you might be able to see me better, which I would have the advantage of if we move to the adjacent space. Books have been my education about government and politics, about religion and God and my fellow man, about philosophy and art, about law and justice. It is books that have prepared me for my many capacities and duties in service to our country. I served as a representative to the First and Second Continental Congresses, where for the first time the 13 colonies gathered in unity to confront the tyrannies of the British and eventually to forge a new nation. I served on the committee that drafted the Declaration of Independence, and I pushed for its passage. I was appointed by Congress as a special minister, first to France, then to Holland, and then as a negotiator for the Treaty of Peace to England. I was finally appointed as ambassador from the United States for the first time to the port of St. James in London, which was a very nervous occasion for me, as I, an American revolutionary, was presented to the very English king who had so lately lost his American colonies. I served for several years in Europe before finally returning home, elected as the first Vice President of the United States, which I consider the most useless office that ever the invention of man has contrived or imagination conceived. But now I am most honored and most humbled to serve as your second president, following that mercurial hero, George Washington, who did so much to set the precedence of that office and establish its dignity. I have been aided in all of these capacities and duties by my family, by my sons, John Quincy, Charles, and Thomas, by my beloved daughter, Abigail Amelia, who we call Nabby, by my wise, my courageous, and my often too honest wife, Abigail. I am now coming to the close of my days of public service, whether or not I'm elected to a second term, and I have given pause to reflect upon my years of service. I have often now been asked more often by others what my proudest moment has been, my proudest achievement, and my greatest disappointment. As to achievement, that presents an easy and ready answer. It has been my work in establishing this as an independent nation. That was a task of enormous proportion, struggle, courage, and sacrifice. It was fraught with much danger and could easily have led to our total loss. But it was what destiny required. For you see, we had become a new nationality as Americans, separate from Englishmen, and we required a new nation. So whatever role I was able to play in making the move for independence happen, that will remain my lasting legacy. As to my greatest disappointment, what could be more hurtful, what could be more bewildering than losing the friendship of a close patriot friend who worked with me side by side so tirelessly for that independence. I speak, of course, of Thomas Jefferson. We had worked as one in great unity in that cause. But once that cause was won, we quickly drifted apart because of our different views of what kind of a nation America would be and what its place would be in the world. Mr. Jefferson sees an America of farmers, rural, tied to the land. I see an America of great industry, of prosperity, of burgeoning cities. Mr. Jefferson favors France as a foreign country because of their generous and necessary support of our revolution and because of their own. And although I do not favor England in her war with France, still, as a nation, England has to a greater measure been a friend to us more than France, who continues to harass our merchant shipping. As to the rift with Mr. Jefferson, that has only grown deeper and more bitter since I have become president. Because under our current system, whoever wins the most votes in the Electoral College becomes the president, and whoever wins the second most votes becomes his vice president. To have a president and a vice president so divided in opinion, it makes a situation where a common and unified administration is nearly impossible, and divisiveness almost inevitable. Still, I pray that in some future day we will be able to put aside our differences and may resume the warm affection and friendship we had in past years. In any event, I invite you to come and view part of my collection of books and other artifacts, and if you have any inquiries of me, I invite you to ask them, and as is in my power of memory to give answer, I will answer them. Thank you, and have a good evening.
I have a question, because Abigail was taking care of your property while you were overseas. And from what I understood in the McCullough's book, which is very good and very long, but that she also bought property while you were away. Could she do that legally, or did she have a power of attorney? How did that work?
Under the Massachusetts Bay Colony rules from the English, she could not. However, once we became an independent nation, she could. So the timing of that property purchase would make all the difference.
Okay, thank you. And good for her.
So how much did Abigail work with you on preparing the Constitution?
Abigail has been my great advisor and dearest friend for almost the time we first met. And she's a great lover of books, and although she was not privileged to get a formal education as I was, she was in every way my superior. So she was very helpful, and she was very vocal in what she wanted. For instance, she felt, even in those earliest times, that women's rights were important and that they should have an equal vote.
Did she think that in part because, if I may ask a follow-up, did she think that in part because she was not allowed to get higher education?
I don't think that that was quite the barrier for her that it may have been for others, because she had a very quick and able wit and was able to absorb many things from the same sources of education I had, even though I was Harvard educated. My education really was the acquisition of books, and she supported that throughout our lives together so far. We've had to give up many things to purchase books, and they are expensive, but we value them very, very highly. In fact, I probably do a disservice by scribbling in many of the books because I enter into dialogues with the authors across time and across oceans, and I find that very enriching for me. So I don't know what the value of those books will be once I'm gone.